Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Superhot, Mind Control Delete. Mind Control Delete is the latest Superhot experience, a standalone expansion born from a piece of DLC that took on a life of its own. You'll once again return to the weird, mildly unnerving world of Superhot, a first-person action game where time only moves when you move, where thoughtful consideration of your next move is just as important as a steady aim with a gun. I was always going to go back the second there was more Superhot to play. The original release was the most innovative shooter in years. Yeah, that was a meme, perpetuated by the game cheekily suggesting that reviewers slide that sentence into their reviews. But it's also true. First-person shooters have kind of plateaued in recent years. The core mechanics behind them are refined in increments, with games such as Call of Duty or whatever FPS Respawn make feel incredible to play in the moment, which made Superhot feel like a breath of fresh air when it launched back in 2016. It was a first-person shooter with something new about it, a new mechanic that was executed incredibly well. The franchise's VR follow-up is a game I consider a must-own for anyone who owns a virtual reality headset. As soon as I heard that Mind Control Delete was launching, in the immortal words of John Wick, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. And while there are some big changes in Mind Control Delete that fundamentally change how the game flows, at its core, this is still the quintessential Superhot experience. The action moves at an incredible pace in motion, one that's far too quick for anyone, even the best FPS players in the world, to keep pace with. But slow down or stop, and time does the same, allowing you to look around, survey the situation you find yourself in, and plan your next move. It feels just as empowering in 2020 as it did 4 years ago. Quickly taking in your surroundings and formulating a plan based on where your enemies are, what weapons they have, and what you can get a hold of is exhilarating, particularly when your plan comes together. Grab the pencil, stab the enemy, snatch their shotgun out of midair, blast another charging enemy, throw the shotgun at a third enemy, take the pencil back out of the first enemy, stab them again, move forward, dodge some bullets, grab a throwing star, kill the third enemy. Whatever situation you find yourself in, and however you get yourself out of it, Superhot feels fantastic to play in moment to moment, and that hasn't changed in Mind Control Delete. Meticulously fighting your way through a level and then watching the replay of everything you just accomplished in real time is a rush, and probably as close to a John Wick simulator as you can get in a first-person action game. No, the reference earlier wasn't an accident, and yes, I really did kill multiple enemies in one level with a pencil. Mind Control Delete comes with a few changes that upend the formula of the original game. The biggest change being that this game leans heavily on procedurally generated levels, items, weapons, and enemy spawns. Instead of following a narrative path linked by carefully crafted encounters, you travel along a series of nodes that contain multiple levels for you to beat to complete them, and a number of hearts, allowing you to take a few hits without worrying about restarting a node unless you make a perfect run. Other nodes contain lore, chunks of story, or new abilities for you to unlock, which I'll get to in a moment because they're the other huge change in the game. The change to procedural generation makes Mind Control Delete a much more reactive game than the original. There, you are thrown into specific situations and tasked with fighting your way through them, almost like a puzzle game. Here, the enemies that spawn, the weapons they carry, where they spawn in other levels, and the weapons and items nearby are all random. So instead of, say, figuring out how to fistfight your way out of an elevator past 3 enemies pointing guns at your head, you're reacting to whatever situation you may find yourself in from moment to moment. It makes for less memorable set pieces, but ones that are more dynamic. The change isn't intrinsically better or worse, just different, and your mileage may vary depending on how much you appreciate the changes. For me personally, I really enjoyed this version of Superhot. Having to react to totally unpredictable circumstances in whatever ways I could made me feel like a badass when I pulled off a perfect play. Within each node, every couple of levels, you're able to equip one of 2 hacks, essentially a special ability that can, say, give you an extra heart, or let you start every level with a random gun, or upgrade your punch. You choose one of 2 abilities from a pool of hacks unlocked by completing optional nodes, expanding your list of potential special abilities. This plays into the dynamic, randomized nature of the game, as you have no control over which 2 hacks you get to choose between, and find yourself needing to adapt your thinking to whatever abilities you have equipped. Lastly, Mind Control Delete throws new enemy types at you. Enemies who can only be killed by hitting them at a specific weak point, enemies that explode bullets upon death, enemies whose weapons can't be stolen, and more. The game introduces you to them every couple of nods before starting to mix them in with the regular enemies, which adds an extra layer of tactical thinking into how you're going to tackle any given encounter. Mind Control Delete's only big weakness, at least for me, is repetition. By focusing away from handcrafted levels and into procedurally generated encounters, you'll start to feel like you're running through the same content over and over again. Which you are, but for as dynamic as the fights can feel, it can start to feel a little tiring seeing the same levels over and over again, even if they are populated with different enemies and brand new encounters. Superhot Mind Control Delete is a bit of a new direction for the most innovative shooter in years. This standalone expansion retains the core of what made the original release such a fantastic breath of fresh air, thanks to its main gameplay mechanics remaining largely intact. While the injection of procedural generation and new special abilities does a lot to change how you approach each level, this is still fundamentally more of what made Superhot such a compelling first-person shooter to begin with. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, consider sticking around here at Words About Games. Our content includes review impressions of games big and small, a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing the happenings in and around the games industry, weekly opinion videos, reactions, debate-driven top 5 and top 10 lists, a regular Hall of Fame series where we discuss our favourite games, and indie game spotlights. We also stream every Friday and Saturday at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. Most importantly, have a brilliant day.